This is the Oz report for September 20th, 2025. All right. And let's start with Plex and Plex adjacent, because we do have a MCT sale going on. It's not quite as good as the quote unquote ponytail sale that we used to have on. If you're interested in how good it actually is, I did create a spreadsheet for it. Yeah. You can I'm going to upload it separately on a rate the deal video, but the short is, yes, it's about a 35 to 39% discount over normal pricing, but it's not as good as the ponytail sale used to be. But who knows whether that is ever coming back in this new phase of no FOMO that CCP has entered. So based on that, the question was, is this going to have a big impact on Plex pricing? Because if you are bringing out a very, very good value New Eden store sale, that means people need a lot of Plex. So typically you can see on the Plex price whether a sale is really good or not. And if we look at the Plex developments this week, then yes, we are seeing a small uptick for the first time since the global market was introduced, but it's still very small. And right now the sell price is about 5.6 million. So it's up a little bit, but it's not crazy. So you can see that people are a little bit disappointed that the free Omega and MCT deal is not quite the ponytail deal. And maybe some people are still holding out for it, but it's clear that CCP has changed their sales strategy. And right now, Plex prices are not going crazy because of these. If we look at large skill injector prices and skill extractor prices, we can see that large skill injector prices are still dropping. They jumped up a little bit last week, but that didn't hold at all. Now we're back on a downward trajectory. So large skill injectors still down. The sell price right now is 765 million, which is not a lot at all. Skill extractors, they were rising quite a bit in the last weeks, which was great for me because I'm holding just way too many of these from the last sale. But that has kind of slowed down, and it's even turned around and it's dropping again a little bit. Current sell price 448 in perimeter for skill extractors. So it's stabilizing at around that 450 million mark, which, you know, if you're skill farming, great. If you're holding them as an investment, not so great. On the other hand, Master at Arms cerebral accelerators, very, very stable. Ever since the drop after May, when I believe one large streamer started dumping way too many of these onto the market, it has stabilized then at a price around 78 million, I believe. Yep, 78 million. And so right now, this is a totally fine way of using these. If we're looking at the comparison of the various extractors, though, as we used to, you can see that the specialist boost bundles, the cerebral accelerators that you buy for Plex in the New Eden store, they have about a 1,600 ISK per skill point cost, and the Master at Arms cerebral accelerator have about a 1,800 skill ISK per SP cost, and that means that the best way, if you want to use cerebral accelerators, is still to buy Plex with ISK and then buy these in the New Eden store. Now, let's move back to our dashboard here. Overall, what we're seeing, moon materials are still all over the place. We still have, you know, occasional outliers like technetium this week up 40%. So, you know, there's always one or two that are very, very erratic in every week. That being said, overall, moon materials, they have been erratic for weeks and weeks and months. Overall, what you can still say about moon materials is that after the Metanox implementation, R4 and R8 have just been crashing down, and they have stabilized at around, you know, half of where they used to be, and everything else is at about the same price as it was before. What we're seeing right now is R32 moons up 20% over 52-week average, but that's mostly because of the technetium jump that we saw this week. Minerals have dropped 3% this week, and we talked about this on stream earlier. It's quite interesting if we look at the details. So if we look at minerals in detail, you can see here that yes, it dropped 3%, but clearly there's some details here, all right? We have a lot of minerals that have dropped 4, 5, 6%. So morphite dropped, zydrine dropped, noxium dropped, isogen dropped, maxillon dropped. These are massive drops in 1 week, right? If you listened to last week's show, then you might know why. A lot of this probably has to do with goons getting settled in and actually mining like crazy in August, and a lot of that now hitting the markets, even if it's not because they're exporting, but they're not, at least not buying out other markets anymore. And so yes, we are seeing mineral prices dropping. What is not dropping again is pyrite, right? Pyrite is up 10% this week, and that is on a price that is already very, very expensive. We looked at the pyrite prices historically, and this is the highest it has ever been. Even during the height of scarcity, pyrite was not higher than it is now at 34 ISK sell price. And so, this got reached a new high this week if we're looking at availability. So right now, pyrite dropped 80% in availability. So 80% of the available sell orders were bought out last week, and the current availability of pyrite is 0.3 trade days. So, only 30% of one trade day is currently available in sell orders, and that is a massive problem for a mineral that is used in absolutely in a wide variety of goods in EVE Online. And so pyrite continues to be an issue, and something that is going to be monitored very closely by CCP. If you've seen their dev blogs lately, then clearly they have seen it and they're doing things about it, and it's not enough to, I think, do what they're trying to do. And so let's look at magmatic gas also. Magmatic gas was the demand was increased last week because now it takes more magmatic gas to run Metanox moon drills. The price this week is up another 22%, and the availability has dropped to 0.7 trade days. The available supply is 60% lower than last week, so a lot of magmatic gas has left the market, and I'm sure a lot of this is speculation. A lot of people are buying it just because of the patch. I said this last week as well. I think the stockpiles are probably astronomical, because there was such an overabundance for such a long time. But it's interesting to see where the price is going to go. If you look at the graph of magmatic gas, actually, I'm going to switch to the game client here. If you look at magmatic gas, the graph, you can see that the price is still very, very low. So even though it rose 22%, it's really the first time in a long time that this is going up in price. So it's not anything crazy. It's just something to continue to monitor, especially if you're running Metanoxes or if you're speculating on the price of magmatic gas. Speaking of Metanoxes themselves are down 13% in price. We don't see Metanoxes reacting in price all that often. So it doesn't show up on my dashboard all that often, but it seems that people are selling more Metanox moon drills, and the price has dropped by 13%. Could have a lot of reasons. I don't necessarily think it's an immediate reaction to the patch, but certainly it could have something to do with that as well. One interesting development definitely is Abyssal filaments. So abyssal filaments are showing up all over the place. Raging exotic filaments, so these are tier 4. They're not only up 30%, but they're also gone from the market. All right, if we go look at the market graph for these, you can see that the price is going through the roof, and the availability is basically not there. So if you look at the price history here, the daily trade volume is about 1,000. If you look at the market data, there's not even 100 left in the market right here. And so these are raging exotic filaments are very popular because you can run them very well in a Gila or Gila, depending on where you're from. And the thing that is crazy is that these are now worth 14 million. Okay, the average loot is 31 million. So this doesn't make any sense. Okay. This really doesn't make a lot of sense, because yeah, sure, maybe they're not losing a lot of ships, but paying 14 million for these and getting 30 million in volume is a terrible is per hour. No matter what you're doing, you might as well go mine in high sec. All right, so I don't really get it what people are doing, but let people do what people do. All right. This is not the only filament that is on here. If you look at this dashboard, you see chaotic electrical filaments up 17 in price. Chaotic gamma filaments, basically off the market. Chaotic electrical filaments, basically off the market. So there's a lot of action going on with filaments right now. But even these, if we do the same math for the other ones, look at these chaotic filaments. Let's see here, short supply. Chaotic electric filaments. The price right now is 31 million. Oh, lost my window here. 31 million, and the expected loot is 65 million. Like, why buy these for that price when the profit per filament is only going to be 30 million? And I know people might be multi-boxing them, etc., but Stike in chat says PV is safe. It is. I mean, people lose ships in abyssal space all the time. If you look at Ezekiel, and even if you run these safely, 50 times in a row, even a disconnect can wreck you in abyssal space. So I don't think it's a good economic move, but whatever people are doing, they are doing it, and these are going, completely crazy. The last thing I want to mention is trigger units. Okay, so trigger units we are seeing here in the trending up category. Trigger units, it's a tier 2 salvage, up 18%. Now, let's see here, trending up trigger units. Trigger units are a salvage good that is extremely popular, a very big part of the economy. All right. This is 2.5. All right. This is 2.5 million at the high point. Nowadays, we're seeing a lot of these drop from exploration, and since exploration sites have increased in numbers so much, this has just dropped into the seller here, the price. The current price for trigger units is 1.5, and last week we actually hit almost down to 1 million. Right now, trigger units are also seeing a turnaround like we're seeing in other salvage goods. All right. So this is this might be a good time to jump in on these, either if you need them in the long term for production, or if you're speculating on them returning to a price. I think trigger units might be in a good space to invest this week. All right. We could talk about 100 different things, but I want to keep this a 10-minute update, or around there. So we're going to return to the regular stream, and I will catch